Welcome to HTML Basics Workshop by the eMarketing Learning Center. I'm your instructor for this evening, Brian Amick from WorkBot Studios. As I mentioned, I'm a partner at WorkBot Studios. We help businesses solve problems through interactive design and development, as well as a partner in Smart Directory, which is interactive touchscreen directories for multi-unit tenant office buildings. I'm an educator. I've taught web design at Edinburgh University, as well as HTML, CSS, PHP classes at Erie Institute of Technology. The agenda for this class, we're going to talk a little bit about what HTML is. Then we're going to move on to HTML tags. Also, in that tag section, we're going to talk about properties and attributes, what those are and how those affect your code. Writing code and what you will need. So we'll go over the basic software that you can use to write a code or write your code and create HTML web pages. So we'll create the page and add the attributes at the end. Afterwards, we'll go on to a short Q&A session. All of the files that we'll talk about this evening can be downloaded at emarketinglearningscenter.org/HTML basics. All right, so first of all, what is HTML? It stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It's the primary markup language that is used in the web. Any website you go to will use HTML code. Without it, it's going to be a very boring website, just text without any images, all one size. So no matter what site we work on, it's going to require use of HTML. HTML tags and properties. Properties are also known as attributes, so you may hear me refer to them more as attributes than properties. What you need to know about HTML is its sandwich. Think of a sandwich. You have a top or a beginning and end, a top and a bottom. Everything within HTML sandwiches information together. And it's all based on tags. You have a beginning tag and an end tag. The content that you see visibly goes in between there, whether it's text, images, or other content. Okay, there's two main types of tags. You have container elements, where you have an open tag, and you have the text and content that's in between. Like I said, that could be images, links, or other items. Then you have a closed tag that ends always with that backslash tag. So you have the open caret, the tag name, close caret, that content. Then you end that with open caret backslash, that same tag, then a close caret after that. The majority of your tags are going to be in this format. However, there are a few exceptions that are considered empty elements. Those are slightly different. You have an open caret, that tag name, and a close caret right after a backslash. Once again, you can see a list of tags. I have a link there at emarketinglearningscenter.org/HTML basics. All right, we're going to talk about Doctype. This is important. Every HTML document should have one. Doctype is a standard definition that's determined by the W3C. W3C is the World Wide Web Consortium. They're the underlying governing body of the web and standards. Doctype can be very lengthy, and there's three major types of Doctype: standard, strict, and transitional. If you want more information about this, go to w3schools.com. It's a good reference site for tags, other information, and has a lot of good information about Doctype.
Where's that link?
w3schools.com. So the HTML structure, going back to the sandwich idea, you always start an HTML document with the Doctype. Right underneath of that, you have the HTML tag. At the very bottom of that, you want to close that document with the close HTML tag. In between there, you have two separate sections, the head and the body. I kind of refer to this as almost the sandwich effect. You have the bread, which is the HTML on the top and bottom. You have the head of the document, and you have the body. The body is kind of the meat, and the head is kind of a lot of features that make that sandwich taste better, but also a lot of features that make your site function better or look better. So style sheets or JavaScripts, elements to enhance the website. So here in red, I put some text describing each area. You have the Doctype up top, then you have the open HTML, close at the bottom, and you sandwich that information together. So head, like I mentioned, JavaScript, style sheets, or other external formatting documents. You know, when you see rotating items on a web page, those are usually based on external scripts, pulling that in. Those are in the head of the document. And the body is the main content of the site. That's what you really see. The majority of what we're going to do today or this evening is going to take place inside the body of the document. All right, so what you need to know about tags are commands. You know, U stands for underline, for example. That is a command. When you sandwich information between the open and close tag, that information is going to take on that property. So in that case, you would see an underlined text. Underline this section will be underlined. Another example is strong. Strong will make that content bold. Open tag, you begin caret, strong, close caret, and at the very end of that, you have the close caret, then that backslash. So you want to end your tags with that backslash. H1 is a header tag. That will make a format that's larger. For those interested in search engine optimization, H1 is the most important tag you can include on your main body copy of the website. Go ahead.
So can you use different numbers to make it bigger?
Yep. H1's the largest, and it goes down to H6. Those can be stylized differently. The way I remember that is think of the automobile Hummer. The H1's the biggest, H2's a little smaller, H3's a little smaller from there. So you can think of it that way. H1, you should only have one on a page, and underneath that you can categorize it down to H2, H3 from there on. Okay, so tag attributes, I referred to them as properties earlier. Really attributes, the more appropriate name. Property is more for style, which is, you know, the next lesson, talking about cascading style sheets. But a container element, you would apply an attribute, a value inside of that open tag. So attributes come in all different shapes and sizes. Once again, you go to this domain and you'll see a list of common attributes, what you can use. That is where you can assign height, background color in the value section. You can fill that color in, and from there, it will start to format your content a little better. Empty element works the same. Image is a good example of an empty element. I'll show you in a minute here how you would link an image. But same process. Open tag, attribute, and the value. So attribute could be a range. Like I said, it's listed on this web domain here. And the value can come in all sorts of ranges specific to each tag. What about multiple attributes on a tag? You can add multiple attributes separately. Attribute equals value. So for example, tag, an attribute could be height. If you have a section you would like a certain height, you could set that height to a specific value. And that height refers to either pixels or percentages. And you can add a height to one attribute and a width to another attribute. And that stylized content would be in between. For the open element tag, same situation there. So what's an example? Like I mentioned, there's a tag, TD, table division. You would add that to a table tag. We'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes. But that width of that would be 75. That would be represented in pixels, so 75 pixels wide. An image, SRC is where that would link the image to your web page by writing that HTML tag IMG, so open caret IMG, SRC, which means source, equals the value. So the value is pulling from a website. So it's going to find the proper image to pull in. So in this case, it's a JPEG. There's other properties in there, or attributes, align right and alt tag. Alt tags are important to use within an image, or the alt attribute is important to use within that image. All right, so getting started, we're going to just do a very simple web page here. And we're going to talk about what programs you need. What do you need? You need a text editor. On Windows, you can use Notepad. That's very easy to find. It's free, won't cost you a thing to use. Dreamweaver by Adobe. There's a 30-day trial for that. You can go to adobe.com and download that. Sublime Text and Komodo are also both free. So you'll need your text editor as well as a browser. So Internet Explorer, Firefox, Chrome, or Safari are the most common ones. But that's all you need to get started with HTML and creating a page. So in this example, we're going to use Notepad because anyone with a PC should have Notepad involved or installed already. So what you would want to do is first open up Notepad. That you can just go to the Start menu at the bottom, type in Notepad, it'll pop right up. Open it up, and you are here with a blank document. From there, you want to make sure that you save the file in the proper name. The very first page to any website is going to be labeled index. And in this case, you put the extension index.html. Index is always based on almost a catalog, a tree menu, to where the index is the very top, and everything underneath can be labeled whatever you'd like it to. But your first page of any site is going to be named index. When you go to save, pay attention to save as type. You want to make sure it says save as type all files. Otherwise, it's actually going to be named index.html.txt when all you want is index.html. So go ahead and save that, and there's your document saved. Again, for this demo, we wrote, this is my first web page. You write that in there, save it again, then go to another browser. For example, this is Firefox, and you open that up. That's what you'll see. You'll see just what you wrote in there, and that's how it would appear in the browser. So we're going to take that and add tags to it. We're adding in the Doctype, and we're going to add in the HTML and body. We're going to skip the head now and add that in a little bit. So this is my first web page. Like I mentioned before, that's the meat. That's viewable information. So that goes within the open and close body tag. Next, all we're going to do is add the head and add the title into the page. The title tag goes in the head. That is viewable. That's one of the few elements that is viewable on the page. But the title is more viewed on the top of the browser. So my first web page will show up on the very top of your browser, and we'll take a look at that in just a minute. We're going to add some P tags. What that is paragraph. So we're going to create two separate paragraphs. One with "this is my first web page," and we added another one below just called "how exciting." To continue on with that, we have the H1 tag and an H2. My first web page, we added as an H1 tag. Below that, H2, what is this? And we added a little more text there, a simple page put together using HTML. So what would that look like? It would look somewhat similar to that. There's a few bullet points here, so we're going to look at some other tags here and come right back to this. But you'll see the H1 tag up top, my first web page. Then below, what is this? Is an H2. You'll see a paragraph tag and another H2. Why is this? And then what you see here is some bulleted list. And we're going to take a look at that here in just a minute after we talk a little bit about attributes. All right, so here is a page that's a little more complex. You'll see here I added a tag. It's UL, open and close, with list items in between. That is how you would create a bulleted list. That UL tag stands for ordered list or unordered list. So that represents bullets. Any item that you would like to have in that list is going to start out with an open LI tag, which stands for list item. And at the end of that, you close it with the LI tag. So unordered list is UL. Ordered list would be represented by numbers. So when you see a list 1, 2, 3 or below, what do you think that would be? If unordered list tag is UL, what may ordered list be? OL, that's right. So most of the tags represent or stand for something. So an ordered list would pull that up with numbers instead of the bullets that we saw right here. Now we're going to go back, and we added some attributes to this. If you look all the way up at the body tag, right up here in this line, you'll see a background color. That background color is in a hexadecimal number. Hexadecimals are 6 numbers or letters ranging from A to F and 0 to 9. And a combination of those letters and numbers will generate colors. When you see duplicates of numbers, it's going to be grayscale. And you can mix those up. The first 2 of those represent the R spectrum for RGB. The next 2 are green, and the last 2 are B. So based on that combination, you can come up with quite a wide range of colors there. You can also, as I labeled here in the H1 tag, I added another tag in between there and used the color red. I then used what's called face attribute and changed that font to Arial. So we're going to take a look in a minute, and you'll see that H1 turned to red, and the font face went from the default Times New Roman to Arial. The H1 defaults to a bold. Any of the H tags, the H1 through 6. So any of here you see open font, my first web page, and then close font. Notice that the HTML or the H1 tag is before the open font and after the close font. Why? Because you sandwich that information together. If you were to add another tag inside of there, you would once again sandwich that information inside of there. The H2 tag is a font color, and I just threw in a number there. If you remember, first 2 digits represent red, so I used 00. Then 33 for green and 66 for blue. That ends up being a bluish color because it's strongest in that blue area. So when we take a look at what this would look like, It's going to be on the bluer side. Then you see the list items below. All right, so it's hard to see the background. The screen's a little washed out, but there's a slighter gray background to that. And you'll see that you changed my first web page is now Arial font. So that went from the default Times New Roman to Arial. The next one down is blue. I just used the word blue and not a specific blue. So that is more of a royal blue. It's stronger than what's below when it has other colors filtered into that. So why is this? Is that 003366 is the hexadecimal I used there. And then below you'll see that bulleted list. And I did use red up there as well for the Arial, so you'll see red text there. So that is a very basic overview of HTML. You know, there's a lot more you can learn. I shared some resources with you. This is a good place to start, and it's free to start with Notepad and a browser. It doesn't take a lot to get started. So do you have any questions? Correct. So if you, I'm going to go back to where we talked about linking an image. If you link a image from another website and that gets deleted from there, it's going to remove from your page. You shouldn't do that anyways. You should have your own images and link to that because there is, you know, copyright law if it's specific images. And there's a lot of stock photography companies that have whole departments that go and scour the web for to see if their images are being misused. So you always want to be careful with that. So, but here in the SRC, you'll see that it pulls that image from a domain. So whether it's your domain or someone else's, that's where it's coming from. And there's really three main image types you can use on the web. You know, JPEG is probably the most common. You have the GIF, which is usually a little more pixelated, better for smaller images. And you have the PNG, which is very clean and crisp, but typically larger file size. Music, there's multiple ways to do that. Using more of the HTML5, you can have higher quality sound files up there without utilizing elements such as Flash or other embed codes, which don't always work on all devices. So you would do that typically by using an embed code of some sort. Is always a good way to get it in there. And there's plenty of resources. Well, very good. All right. Once again, I'm Brian Amick. Thank you for coming to class. You know, in the not too distant future, we'll probably do a little more advanced HTML class as well as cascading style sheet class, which will go into more styling the web page, adding more images, more functionality. That's next step. So thank you very much for coming out.